Does degree qualify you as a knowledgeable person?
People pay crazy amount of money to go get degrees. No matter how amazing all of these individual things that you did, if you forgot to send out invitations, there's no wedding.
Practicing a wrong shot 1,000 times is still going to be wrong.
I booked a flight to the US. A friend of mine was dropping me to the airport and she was like, by the way, just double check your US visa validity. And I looked at it and it was expired.
Oh my God.
Don't go get an MBA. And what you will learn in an MBA is entirely in this book. Hey dude, I have this really cool idea. Do you want to invest with me? You found an investor. Does that mean that his electrical engineering education was a waste? Hard work is usually equated with intensity.
You do not rise to the level of your goals, but fall to the level of your systems.
I could not disagree more. I could not disagree more. Everything is cyclical. Everything is cyclical. Today times are with you. Tomorrow they will not be with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of Brew With Abdu. In today's episode, we have recurring guest, the guest from the most viewed podcast. Here is Aamir Kothari. Welcome, brother.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
How are you doing today?
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Aamir, school is important.
Okay.
College is a scam, I believe.
Okay, I'll let you finish.
Does degree qualify you as a knowledgeable person?
Does a degree qualify you as a knowledgeable person? I think, that's a it's a very general, large question. It really depends on what you do. It depends on you. It doesn't depend on the university. Mm-hmm. So it's like Harvard doesn't make you smart. You're smart. That's why you went to Harvard.
Okay, interesting.
Right? Now, it's possible that you can go to a university and all you do is just go to class and then go back to your dorm. Like if that's all you did, mm-hmm. you can pass all your exams and everything. But how much value did you take away from, it doesn't have to be Harvard, it can be anything, any institution, how much value did you take away? So it's in your control in a sense.
Okay.
And any university doesn't just offer you education in that classroom setting. It's offering you like so many other, there's so many other touch points other than just the classroom. Mm-hmm. There's so many other ways to extract value out of that institution of education.
Okay. What are those?
Well, it could be the network, it could be the people you meet, but then you have to put in the effort. You have to go join the student clubs. You have to actually go make the friends. You have to build the confidence to go and approach a group of strangers and say, hey, I would like to be friends with you. All of that, it's teaching you. It has put you in a position where you don't know anybody. So it's the institution is effectively asking you, go make friends. Go do the ice breaking.
Right.
That's a skill that you carry forward in your life after you have graduated. But you can choose to just go to your class, don't talk to anybody, and then go back.
Yeah.
And you will have passed your exams and you have the degree, but how valuable is that degree? I mean, and then there's the whole question about what is smart? What is intelligent? Is it just like passing exams? I mean, I don't think so.
But you could use that, you could get those experiences even without colleges, right? You could just like travel the world, meet new people, experience the same things that you do with like 1/10 of the money.
Experiences exactly the education that you will get in the classroom?
No, like speaking with new people,
Yes,
gaining experiences.
That's true. It's true. But it's also, I think that college is also an effective way to do that. Mm-hmm. You're right. It doesn't have to be the only way. Okay. It does not.
Okay.
And now, especially with online education, that barrier is completely being broken where at one point, it's also a return on investment question. Like people pay crazy amount of money to go get degrees.
Right.
Where I personally feel I'm like, that's too much money. I'm sorry, but that education is not worth that much.
Right.
You could have gotten that at a much better return. So like cheaper price.
Right.
And yes, sure, you will not have a certificate that says Harvard on it and all of that. And sure, that has value, but it opens doors for you. But I mean, why, this is a good question because as you know, I'm an education counselor in our community as a community service. So I've been doing this for quite some time. And, online education, I put that as a very viable option. People should. Why? It's very applicable for our community because so many of our students intend to join their father's businesses.
Right.
So if you already have an employment option like already waiting for you, why do you want to go through the traditional route of building your resume?
Yeah, it makes no sense.
It doesn't make, it's a good option. It's a good thing to do if you want to say, I'm not really sure if I want to join my dad's business. Or I don't want to join my dad's business immediately.
Right.
I would like to go work somewhere else.
Right.
But even then, you have to it's always a question about the return on the investment, like,
or the business model of your father requires that education, like it requires
Yes,
engineering, or it
exactly.
requires biology, or
Exactly.
something like that.
Yes,
That makes sense.
Yes, that's true. Although a lot of the times what is more traditional is you always end up at the management level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though, suppose you have a bunch of engineers under you, but you're not an engineer.
Sure.
Neither do you have to be an engineer. You don't have to be an engineer.
Correct.
You're sitting at the managerial level.
Yes.
Right? So that means that you need to go learn managerial skills.
True.
Which you should learn. That's a whole other conversation about people say that, oh, your father will teach you about business. You don't go learn business. You should go learn like a proper skill, like engineering.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an AC technician business, then go become an engineer. But the business skills you learn on the fly, and everything that you need to know about business, your family members can teach you. The seniors can teach you. And what do you think about that?
Given my experience,
Given your experience, is business inherited? Are business skills inherited? Or even if they're not, maybe inherited is too strong a word. Like, is it possible to just, my uncle and my dad and my elder brother put together can teach me everything there is to know about this business or any business? And I don't need to go learn it out.
it depends on their experiences and how much results they have brought with their experiences. If after like 50 years of their services and experiences still were lacking in many ways, then I think they're not the perfect examples for me to learn from. And I might have to look for other experts in the industry. But if they have done great things for themselves and the business is somewhere, at a good level, and I think, okay, their experiences have really brought in tangible results in the businesses, then I think, they are the right persons to learn from. Yeah. Not even just learn from them, but like be in their shoes. Like I would really recommend for them to leave the business when I'm there.
Okay, why?
Yeah, because like then I'm not told what to do. I have to make those decisions myself, and sometimes they can be wrong. But when I learn from the wrong decisions that I have taken, it really amplifies the solutions that I have to take in the future.
But that's a lot of responsibility from the get-go.
True.
For them to, it's also unfair on you. It's almost
not in the beginning.
Yeah, not in the beginning.
For sure. Like first couple of years, of course, you have to be under their supervision. You have to listen to what they say and take their decisions. But then, like once you've gotten a hold of everything and you know how the business runs, I think then they should give you a certain level of freedom to do the things that you want to do in the business. Because like we had this conversation earlier, a couple of days earlier, you said that in the life cycle of a business, the CEO who started it doesn't have to be there in every phase of the business life cycle. So then I think 20 years later or 30 years later in a business life cycle, the same person who started it doesn't have to be there at this stage of the business life cycle.
You're right. So you're saying that it depends on what results they got. If they were really effective in the business, then they could be effective teachers.
Yeah.
But if they weren't so effective, and if the business today is just it's very average,
Yes.
Then perhaps it's more worthwhile for you to go to business school and learn those skills by yourself.
My second route would not be a business school, but some like just experience from someone else, or maybe like you said, go and intern in another company where it's a more successful company, or maybe contrary to this, like even a less successful company might be able to teach you more, right? But then the fact that it's a nepotistic environment when you're in your father's company, you don't tend to learn a lot because then you get certain level of things already done for you. You have a chair, you have your office, so there's a certain level of comfort. But if you go into a less successful company who's not your relative or anything, I think you learn a lot in that company.
Okay, good point. Good point about the nepotism, and that's true. And as much as people may manage for that, it's almost like it's gonna happen. It's like an unsaid thing in the background. And it's hard to manage for that, truly, it is. But I think even if, I think I slightly disagree, where you're saying that even if a person who started a business, they founded it, and they did really well, and now their son is about to go to university, and he could choose business, or he could choose some other technical skill. It's a mistake to write off business as not a technical skill.
Okay.
It is a technical skill. It is an actual skill to run a business, and all of it cannot be inherited, and all of it cannot be taught even by a very effective owner operator.
Okay.
Because from the time that person started the business, and by the time now I am going to enter, years have passed. Years of technology has passed. Years of business practices have evolved. The market has changed. What you would be taught today in a business school, it would equip you with skills that your seniors don't have.
Right.
They could be great, but unless they are really putting effort to keep themselves at the edge of the, whatever the innovation is happening within business education and all of that.
Right.
Which they may, if they do, then great. You guys will be seeing eye to eye. And it's still effective for you to go to business, right? But, business school, I mean. But I think that people write off business schools just like, they'll think that I'll go study marketing because that's an actual skill. But business strategy is never something people even think of studying. Whereas all of business fundamentally will come down to business strategy. So I think that people write off business school too.
But why are the greatest successful people almost all of them dropouts?
Yeah, because you are looking at like 10 people who became successful and didn't go to school, and not the other million who also didn't go to school and now are complete failures. So I don't think that the causation of like, don't go to school, start working really early in your life and just hope that you'll be some genius guy.
Right.
And you'll have some amazing idea.
No, I don't oppose the idea of going to college. I oppose the idea to go to have degrees that are very, very basic in today's age. Like 10 years ago, those degrees would be very valuable.
Okay.
Like I think today, in today's world, business strategies might not be very effective. It's just a personal observation.
Okay.
Like if you have a good skill, a good vocational skill, like if you're a good content creator, right? It's very easy to make a good business out of it.
Even if you don't know how to run a business?
Yes. You can hire a CEO.
Okay, but that's expensive. You just started off.
No, not just. Like when you make a business, you can be a freelancer for a couple of years.
Okay.
As a content creator. Once you see that there is more potential to it, you want to start a business out of it, and you have enough cash flow, you can then hire a certain level of managers and stuff and things like that, and set up a business, and you can hire a CEO.
You can, but like technically you can hire the CEO. It will be expensive. Alternatively, you can go learn how to run a business.
Okay.
And you could hire, content creation is a very hireable skill. You can hire content creators.
Right.
You can tell them, this is the vision that I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Make videos in a certain way, edit them in a certain way because that's my style. And that is a much, it's a much more hireable skill. It's also a lot more affordable on your expense structure, right? Rather than hiring one very expensive CEO. But I think it would be more meaningful for you to be in the driver's seat. After all, it's your business. What if the CEO and you don't meet eye to eye? Of course, then you can say that, no, I'm the owner, so I say, we should do what I say. But the CEO is like, yeah, but you're not a CEO.
Right.
And that's a bad business decision. And here's why. So eventually the company will just morph into what that guy wants, because he will always pull the card of, I know how to run a business, you don't.
Right. But again, there's something like you can hire a CEO later in the later stages of your business.
That is true.
But you cannot hire a content creator in the later stages of your business. If you don't know how to create a content and your work requires content creation, then you need it from the first day.
Well, yeah, but when a business has reached a later stage, you have to assume that something led them to be at a later stage, meaning that they have managed the content creation part. Maybe you are some really productive guy and you're doing the content creation part as well, and you're doing the business part as well, and you're doing all the other elements that bring a business together. There are 5.
Yeah.
What are you selling? What value are you providing to the customer? How will you create demand? How will you create awareness for the thing that you are selling? How will you turn that awareness into actual sales? That's the third part. How will you then provide customer service? How that's basically called delivery of products. So like,
Right.
here's what I'm selling. Here's how I will create demand for that thing that I'm selling. Here's how, once I have created demand, I will turn that into actual sales.
Right.
That's the third part. Once I've turned that into an actual customer who bought something from me, here's how I will deliver it, and here's how I will maintain relationship
Right.
with that customer.
Right.
How I will service them, whatever else, right? Upsell them other products, cross-sell them other products, whatever it may be.
Right.
And then the last thing is how I will do all of this profitably, which is the finance part.
Right.
All of those things are very important things that just don't happen.
True.
They don't magically happen.
True.
Each one of them is an important skill, and to be the conductor, to bring all of that pieces together,
Yeah.
you need proper education for that. It doesn't just happen. And the ways of doing that have evolved over many, many years. The
Right.
best practices,
Right.
the best way to do all of those things. From when, 40 years ago, when our seniors started, it's not necessary that you have to give them the respect, but if you don't bring in new skills, even they will go like, no, just do what I say. Because you're coming in with not much skill.
True.
And I have the experience. So, of course, they will always have more experience than you. But if you are bringing very concrete, tangible stuff on the other side, here's what I learned. Here's what research says. If we do this, then this is how it can work.
Yeah.
All of those evidence-based stuff.
Again, like, I'm not opposing to the idea of education.
Yeah.
Like, I know education is important, but is a university the most optimal way to get the education?
The answer is I don't know.
Okay.
But then there is the whole question of you have to live in this world, and everybody asks, the first thing they ask is what degree you have, where did you go to school, what did you study?
By the way, in my 30 plus podcast, I have never asked my guests, and my guests have never asked me what education I've done.
Okay, fair point. That's true. Granted, you already know that about the guests, so why would you ask them that?
No, I've not known.
You've not?
Majority of them I've not known what they've done, like in terms of education.
Right.
Like career-wise, of course, we've researched.
Yeah.
He might have known because he's done the research on them, but I have not known.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. I mean, but okay, that's 30 people you've met. I've met 100 others who asked, there's just like an icebreaker question. Oh, where did you go to school? Not
Right.
because I care about, if you say Harvard, then I'll place you somewhere. And if you say like some other random school, then I'll be like, okay, this guy's whatever. It's nothing because of that. It's just a conversation starter.
True.
Like, where did you just go to school? And if you say, oh, I didn't go to university. Technically, if the guy on the other side is a smart guy, he won't say, oh, this guy didn't even go to university.
Yeah.
Immediately, I would become more curious. I'd be like,
Right.
oh, then how did you do whatever you do?
Right.
Oh, I learned everything on YouTube. Okay, amazing. Times have changed. You're right. And university, in that sense, where education comes from is becoming more and more sort of diverse, right?
Yeah.
I agree with that. At the same time, I would not so quickly write off that, no, I'm not even going to bother getting a degree.
Right.
What I would write off is I'm not going to pay some insane amount of money to get that degree.
I agree.
That I would definitely reconsider.
Right.
But if it's in a reasonable amount of, in terms of what you can afford, I think it's still valuable if what is being taught to you is of value.
But I'm looking at evidences. Yes, please continue.
You mentioned that there are some degrees that are no longer valuable today, which I completely agree.
Okay.
And we see that in India, BCom students. I know this because I talk to students. They themselves are like, we are doing BCom, but we have realized that just doing BCom is no longer a viable option.
Right.
You will have to pair that with some other certification, maybe we're doing double majors. And people are just slowly shifting away from BCom because the market is telling them that if you come in with this degree, I'm sorry, but you don't have that much value.
Right.
You don't have that much value. And for students who are in BCom today, don't be so discouraged. Just go out and learn other things, do other certifications, learn
Absolutely.
other things. So you're right that some degrees are phasing out.
I think there's this trend going on right now, like it's very trendy on YouTube and Instagram as well, that even post-graduation, like MBA, is also a scam.
Look, scam is a really big word. You can't just use it like that.
We want clickbait.
I mean, look, there's a book called The Personal MBA.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if you guys have read that.
I think it's a red color cover.
No, it's white.
Okay.
It's white, and it's really, really popular book. Like, it's a huge, very, very popular book by Josh Kaufman, I think.
Okay.
And he, in the introduction of that book, he's making the case that don't go get an MBA. And what you will learn in an MBA is entirely in this book. Just read this book, and you will learn everything that they learn.
Right.
Fine. I even agree to that.
Okay.
Right. However, you then have to ask, okay, so then is everybody who is getting an MBA an idiot? No. All of those hundreds of thousands of people never heard of personal MBA? No. They read it, and so if in the introduction he's saying you have to know the why behind why you're getting the MBA.
Right.
If you're going to go get the MBA saying that, oh, this guy will teach me something new, here is everything he's going to teach you. So don't go pay him all of that money. But if you're going to go get an MBA at a university that is of a certain level, where your actual intention is, eventually I want to go start my business. But what is the best place for me to network? It's in this classroom, because all of these people who are going to graduate are going to start businesses.
Right.
I could find my potential business partner in this class. It's a great way for this university to do all of the hard work for me and bring in like-minded, similar-aged, intelligent people in one classroom. And basically, it's like a dense pool of potential candidates that you could find customers in there. You could find partnerships in there.
Right.
You could find other stakeholders, owners. You could find a guy whose dad is a really rich guy.
Yeah.
Hey, dude, I have this really cool idea. Do you want to invest with me? You found an investor. That's extremely valuable. You know how hard it is to find investors?
True.
It's crazy hard. If you're lucky enough to be in a classroom where you make friends with a really rich guy, he's your potential investor. If he likes you, if he likes your idea. So those are so many other values that an MBA gives you. It's not just about the education. But if you're just going to go by the education, you may want to go find it's much cheaper if you buy a $20 book.
Right. But my question is, if you're doing MBA, do you have the ideas to start a business at that time? Like, if you don't have the vocational skills, right?
Yeah.
You don't have just an idea and the business skills.
Yeah,
will not get you that far. You need to have, like, what kind of specific product or what kind of specific problem am I going to solve?
That's true.
For which I need the business. You can have the business skills, but you don't know what business to start.
You're right.
That's where your skills come into play.
So the problem that you're trying to solve may come from a skill that you already have, like a technician or any kind of problem solving skill. Suppose you're an architect, right?
Yeah.
And or an interior designer, and so the problem is people have rooms that need designing.
Right.
If you leave it to themselves, they will design it in a very ineffective way.
Right.
Right. So you can hire me. I'll design your room for you. Okay, I did that for a few years, and then I said, this is a problem that I can solve at a slightly bigger scale.
Right.
But for that, I need a team. I need more interior designers. I need some guy who's branding us. I need some guy who's going to actually do the leads and the customer leads and blah, 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 all of those things.
Correct.
You can create a business. You're saying that you would never have landed to that idea if you weren't an interior designer yourself. Right? That's what you're saying. You first need to have an interior designer.
No, not never.
Not never, exactly.
Yeah, not never.
You could be
Obviously.
sitting in a business class.
True.
And it's just about exposure as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to come from a vocational skill. It doesn't always have to spawn from, if you're an architect, you could design an architect business. You could be, you could have a skill, but end up having a business that has nothing to do with that skill.
Absolutely. That's happened multiple
times. That is my dad. Like, that's who he is.
Right.
He's an electrical engineer. What we do today has nothing to do with electrical engineering.
Correct.
Nothing. So what does that mean? Like, does that mean that his electrical engineering education was a waste? Another thing I always tell students is that if you learn engineering, that could arguably make you a better businessman.
How?
And you could say, how does that even happen?
Yeah.
Because there's something called mental models. There are lots of books on this. And mental models is a fancy word for a way of thinking, right? So best explained with an example. Suppose we know in maths that any number, no matter how large, when you multiply it by 0, The answer is 0.
Right.
Right? Now, so that is called a multiplicative model. And the idea is called zero multiplicants. So 0 is a multiplicant, is a number that whatever you multiply it by, the answer is 0. Okay, if you apply this to a wedding, suppose you're planning a wedding. Now, a wedding has a whole bunch of elements. You have catering, you have your clothes, so you have tailoring, you have decorations, you have the wedding card designing, you have actual sending out of invitations.
Right.
All of those things. You have buying gifts, buying jewelry. All of those elements have to come together to put a wedding together, right?
Right.
What is the zero multiplicant in all of these pieces? What does that mean? That means that no matter how amazing all of these individual things that you did, if you forgot to send out invitations, there's no wedding. There's no wedding without guests.
Right.
That means that rank everything from a score of 0 to 100. So like we went out to the best tailor in the world and we tailored the best clothes in the world. Okay, that's 100.
Yeah.
Okay, then we went to the best caterer. Okay, that's another 100. Our jewelry's on 80. Our this is on 90. Decorations are on 50. Whatever, blah, 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 whatever effort you put in each of these elements. And then you multiply it by a big 0 because you forgot to invite everybody. So immediately that tells you that, wait a minute, the priority in all of these things is send the invitations.
Right.
Don't forget to send the invitations because then everything will be multiplied by 0.
Right.
That is a mathematical model you have used in project management. Wedding is a project and you use it in project management. We are project managing the tiniest things of our lives.
Correct.
I'm traveling. I need to pack this, blah, 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 all of those things. But if you say, what are the things here that if I forget that, this whole thing is a 0.
Passport. Immediately,
those things will be highlighted.
Right.
Exactly. Passport. Exactly. I forgot my passport. 0.
True.
So immediately it will highlight what the priorities are.
There was a time I had to return from airport because I forgot my passport.
Yeah. There is a time where I was in Canada. I booked a flight to the US. My dad and my brother were flying from Kuwait. I was going to meet them. Okay. I'm stepping out of my house in Canada and a friend of mine was dropping me to the airport. And she was like, by the way, just double check your visa validity, your US visa validity. And I looked at it and it was expired.
Oh my God.
That's not even a passport problem. That's an even worse problem.
Right.
Where it's like, oh my God, you forgot your US visa validity. 0. Tickets gone, hotels gone, everything gone.
So,
This is what I mean. Mathematical thinking in project management, in planning a wedding, in doing a business.
yeah.
You did everything. You forgot your mics. You forgot your camera. It's gone. You don't have a place.
It's common.
It's common. Yeah. So 0 multiplicants, right? It's everywhere.
I remember there was a podcast by Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
He was talking about this. The host asked, "What is the importance of learning all this algebra, trigonometry, and all these things?" He was like, you can never evaluate you can never evaluate it tangibly, but the person who is good at math will always know that his life is in some ways much better than others who are not. And someone who's studied math, his problem solving skills in real life will be far better. He'll be like quick at solving things. So there's so many other things that's happening in your mental capacity because you learned math in your school.
Exactly. And that's the case with not just maths, but even the other sciences. I'll give you another example. Law of thermodynamics, right? That's physics, or is it chemistry? I don't know, one of them. And what does it say? It says that heat, if one object is hot and the other is not as hot, then heat will transfer and both objects will become the same temperature.
Right.
So heat will move from cold to hot in order to bring equilibrium. That's basically what thermodynamics is saying.
Okay.
Right? There is an idea that says, it's a brilliant idea. It says that a person is the average of the people they spend most time with.
Yeah, I've heard this.
Right? So usually that's family members. If not, then it's friends.
Correct.
Right? This is why they say that choose your friends really, really carefully, because they will bring down your average. If they are people that get into shady stuff, have really bad habits, in terms of they're lazy, they're not productive, they have no vision in life, they have no direction, they're really spoiled brats, they come from rich families and they're just spending money, all they know how to do is like live a rich life. Right? All of those really toxic traits.
Yeah.
If you start living with them, you might say, I would never become them. They are at heart, they're really nice people. And I have fun spending time with them.
Right.
But I would never let my habits be like that. You're kidding yourself. Why? Because thermodynamics is at play. The heat will transfer. The heat will transfer. That's a law of physics. That's a law of the universe, thermodynamics. It's happening not just in humans and on Earth, it's happening in the universe.
Wow.
So it is not so easy to escape the effect of your crowd around on you, right? And you might, this is why they say, I don't drink, but I go to bars and just sit with my friends. Nope, you're gone. You're asking for it.
Right.
You're making it hard for you to slip.
True.
Why? If you had learned physics, you'd be able to see this from a physicist's point of view and appreciate, this is what they mean. You know, my mom's been telling me, my dad's been telling me that don't spend time with them, don't spend time with them, and I'm just like this, in this zone of, I'm not gonna listen to my mom and dad. They don't know what they're saying. But if you were learning thermodynamics, and if a teacher told you, look at problems in this way, you would appreciate, you would go like, hey man, this is the law of the universe. Who am I to go against the law of the universe?
Right.
Right? So it's really powerful. And if you start collecting mental models from all different disciplines, it makes you a much more creative problem solver. You'll be able to see the problem in a completely different way and find solutions that nobody else is seeing because you're seeing it from a different light.
Absolutely.
But if you have not learned the fundamentals of physics, the fundamentals of chemistry, biology, computer science, business, philosophy, psychology, all of those things, the law, right? These are big disciplines.
True.
I'm not saying everybody should get a degree in everything. Obviously not.
Right.
You choose one and you get a degree. But you should be studying and learning a wide array of books that take you in all different kinds of directions. Because it will paint a much fuller picture in your head.
Right.
So it's... Yeah.
You had the option to choose from a wide variety of subjects, right? In your university.
Yes.
You chose from different fields, I think so.
Yes, because in the US and Canada, and maybe in some universities in India as well, you have like core courses. So if you choose computer science, you have a bunch of computer science courses. But then it is part of your degree where they're like, you have to do non-computer science courses. You have to.
Right.
If you only do computer science courses, you will not get a degree. You have to get non-computer science credits.
Okay.
And they are basically forcing you towards arts, towards what they call general education, where it can be like from astrophysics to wherever. Like it just goes on and on. It's a huge, depends on how large your university is, what they offer and blah, blah, blah. But they are forcing you to become an all-rounder student rather than I learn computer science and that's all I can do. That's all I can do. Like that makes that problem is called a man with a hammer syndrome.
Okay.
Where a man with a hammer, every problem looks like a nail.
Yeah.
But every problem doesn't require a nail. Some problems require a screwdriver.
Yeah.
Some problems require a spanner.
Absolutely.
So, but if I don't have those tools, all I have is a hammer. All I can do is computer science. Every problem, I'm going to solve it like a computer scientist. No.
True.
That's a mistake.
I think this issue lies with people who are completely hyper-focused, and so they see the world in binary, or they see the world in like tunnel vision. There's nothing else outside their vision. So I agree with you. Like the way you communicate with your partner is different than the way you communicate with your kids. Is different than the way you communicate with your parents.
Absolutely.
So I agree with you.
Absolutely. Communication skills is another skill that's like a life unlock skill.
Right.
There are very few skills that are like life unlocks. Knowing English. If you know, I think there's some research that says that the one factor that immediately triples your income is whether you know English or not in this entire world.
Wow.
If you are an English-speaking person, you have effectively tripled the potential capacity to earn.
Wow. That's great.
That's how unlock. I mean, there's a better word for it. But that's how important a factor English is. I think using how to use a computer, another skill, right? Completely puts you in a different level, a different income bracket. Communication is another one. Completely. If you can effectively communicate, if you have an idea in your head and you can effectively put it into words, you do this super well. I mean, I see you in every podcast. It's hard
Really?
Honestly, the side note, what you guys are doing is like freaking hard. It's so hard, and I have so much respect, and I watch every episode, not because I do it from two reasons. One is because I know how far that one like goes.
Absolutely.
That support, what that means, is so critical at this startup stage that you guys are at. So not only do I do that from a support point of view, but I also do that because I'm so genuinely interested in the very varied kinds of guests you get, and because you're such a good host.
Wow.
The guest can be great, but I mean, it goes both ways. The guest also has to be good.
Yeah.
A boring guest, I mean, there's only so much a host can do.
True.
But there can be a really interesting guy, and if there's nobody asking him interesting questions, then
Correct.
you just wasted a whole bunch of potential. So both parties are super important, and you always show up, man. You always show up. It's
Thank you
amazing.
so much, man.
So
Thank
much
you.
respect.
Really
but it's
appreciate it.
communication, because
Yeah.
you can put a thought into proper words, and you might think that that's like, who doesn't know how to do that? Like,
Yeah.
just talk. You know, you have a thought, just speak it. Oh my God, how many bad communicators do you know? I mean, I can like write a whole list. You know, and I don't mean that like I don't mean that in like an offensive way. I'm just saying that that's how rare really good communication skills are.
Absolutely.
It's not like I can talk to my friends. No.
No.
Can you stand in front of a crowd and like talk about an idea in an effective way?
Yeah.
Right? It's hard.
Also, like, if I look back into I was actually watching our podcast, the first one, just to have some research for this podcast. And I was like, I don't want to watch this podcast anymore, because I feel like how far I've come. It's incredible. It's tremendous. Like, that podcast, I was stuttering. I was stammering. I was looking for ideas. You know, I felt like a majority of the conversation was initiated by you, and I was just throwing out ideas, and then it was just you speaking out. And today I feel like, okay, it's if it's not 50-50 conversation, it's at least 40-60, and I'm proud of that. And not just this podcast, in the past 5 to 10 podcasts, I feel a great improvement in myself looking at the first 5 podcasts that I had done. So yeah, communication is really important. Thank you.
That
man.
scientist episode was amazing, dude.
Really?
It was so cool.
You liked
She
it?
was talking about some really, I don't know if you want to talk about your other guests in an episode, but you know, I thought it was just really, it was just so interesting. You asked her, there was a point where you asked her, why are women so rare in the STEM field? And she actually gave you a stat which was completely surprising to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would, because your stat is true. Globally, it is true. I think she gave you a Kuwait-specific stat, which is still very surprising.
Absolutely.
I was so shocked, and it's amazing that there are more women in the STEM field in Kuwait.
Yeah.
That's just amazing. But I thought it was really interesting that you had not only a scientist, but that it was a woman.
Yeah.
Because it just added a different perspective on what she's trying to do, how difficult her journey has been.
Absolutely.
I'm sure, I know you didn't go into it, but I'm sure that there are elements, if you were to ask her, maybe not on air, that, you know, specific things that you can name me that made it harder just because you are a woman and that other guy is not.
Absolutely.
Whether that's winning a medal or winning a customer or winning an investor or whatever it may be.
Right.
I'm sure. So much respect, and just so cool.
Absolutely. I mean, I had attended a workshop in that there was a lady who came in. We started communicating, and she asked me bluntly. I showed her that I'm a podcaster and this is my YouTube page. She was looking at on her own iPad. She's like, "You have only 2 women guests, and you have like 20 other men. Why?" So at that point, I felt triggered. I was like, this is not intentional. Like I could genuinely not find great women who I could, you know, have a podcast with in that point of time, at that point of time. But it was interesting to me. I was like, I was retrospecting. Okay, yeah, that's true. Like there's like 95-5 ratio. Like, you know, that very less. And then I was like, okay, let's try to find more women.
Like consciously, actively,
Yes, I'm sure there are.
Yeah.
And we did find great women who were like, you know, in their field, they were top of the line. So many people looked up to them. So, you know, like really great people are coming up.
Yeah. Do you feel like there is even though you might find a woman who's really successful and really could make an interesting guest, that maybe because culturally women may not want to be in front of camera in this culture, and we know that.
Yeah.
And that's totally their decision. Like, there's no obviously you don't want to be in camera, you don't want to be in front of camera. That's totally fine.
Absolutely.
Have you had such replies where it's like, no, I might make a really good guest, but I'm just not comfortable being on air?
There was one.
Yeah.
I would not name.
Yeah, of
but
course.
yeah, we did find that.
Yeah.
That was completely her choice.
It's exactly. Yeah.
And
I'm saying that could be another reason.
Yeah.
Maybe up till now you've only found one, but it might be the case
Absolutely.
that more men just happen to accept.
Correct.
And so that could be an answer in the future where somebody asks you, why are there like 90% of your guests men? It was like, well, more women. Here's how many guests I approached.
True.
And it's 50-50.
Right.
Or it's 70-30.
Right.
But so many women said no, for whatever their reasons are.
Correct.
So.
Yeah. Even we've sent invites to like 10 more women, but we're still awaiting their confirmations on the when to do the podcast and stuff like that. So yeah, many more women are coming up.
Yeah.
I have a list of quotes that I've researched, and I was like, I want to pick your brains on them. Okay. So let me read them to you. This one's by Alex Hormozy. Do you know him? The long-haired guy. He wears that patch on his nose.
He has a book.
I think he has a book.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Yeah. So he says, champions lack something that everyone else has, which is an off button.
Okay.
This really blew my mind when I heard that. What do you think of this?
Can you tell me what context he's saying it in? Or you just have this quote?
He was on a podcast.
Okay.
And they were talking about the mindsets of successful people, the mindset of champions like David Goggins and Usain Bolt and stuff like that. So like, why are they different than the rest of us? That's the kind of conversation they were having. And then he said that champions lack something that everyone else has. So he starts with the negative tonality for champions, and then he says, which is an off button. They never stop. So like people like me or ordinary people, they stop.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't have an off button, is what he's saying.
Right.
So they never stop.
I mean, that's probably true. I mean, it just sounds right. It reminds me of another idea, which is that hard work is usually equated with intensity.
Okay.
So like intense focus, intense hard work. I'm working like 15 hours a day. I don't meet my family. This guy gives so many sacrifices. He's in a room like, oh my God, crazy blood, sweat, tears, like, intense.
Right.
That's what we think hard work all of this equals hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is that it's actually not intensity, it's consistency.
Right.
That actually means hard work. And in order to have consistency, there is no way you can maintain that intensity consistently.
Right.
You can't. That equals burnout.
Correct.
You will not be able to do it. So the fact that he's saying that champions don't have an off button, what I think he's saying is that they can maintain consistency for over average periods of time. Why? Because they know what intensity to work at.
Right.
People don't know what intensity should I be at. If I overshoot, then I'll burn out. If I undershoot, then I'm wasting my time.
Correct.
I'll get results way too slowly.
Yeah.
And others will pass by me.
Yeah.
So what is the appropriate level of intensity that eventually gets me to my goal, which is consistency, not intensity?
True.
That's my thought on.
Also, I think I'm the captain of my cricket team.
Right.
I keep telling this to my team that practicing a wrong shot 1,000 times is still going to be wrong.
Correct.
So then consistency should also be matched with doing the right thing.
Definitely.
So like it's really important to be self-aware. What you're doing is wrong. So no matter how many times you do it, you're still going to be wrong. Also, this reminds me of two different things. Yeah, Tahir really recently he shared a reel on our team's group. It had a ladder. All right, so imagine a ladder where it says, "Think big," and imagine the ladder has big steps. Right. So when you think big, you want to achieve those goals. You have big steps. You're not going to climb those steps, because the steps are bigger than you can climb.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now imagine the same thing. You've thought big, you have a big goal, but you have small steps. But small multiple steps, you can easily climb them. So I think consistency is like those small steps when you think big.
Yeah, exactly. You can say that large steps is intensity.
Yes, exactly.
And you might be able to try insanely hard and pass the first one, but to do it all over again, to pass the second one, it comes back to studying, right? What do people do? They leave the studying until the last night, and then crazy intense, like for 26 hours, okay? And then they'll be like completely burnt out in the exam. They'll come and like they'll write whatever, and then here's the worst part. They'll get an A. Yeah.
Anybody can do this. You need talent for this.
I could not disagree more. Okay? That's not to say, look, you know what that tells me? That tells me that you have a great capacity to maintain a whole bunch of information for the short term. You have really good short-term memory. And you have really good recall.
Right.
Right? Oh, here's the question. I know exactly what it is. It's fast recall, short-term memory. I can save a whole bunch of information crammed in my head. Bam, bam, bam. I got an A.
Right.
If whoever said that this is the purpose of education, like, oh my God, because it's so toxic, like education is like passing exams. And if you pass the test, you're a smart guy. You're an idiot.
Right.
I'm sorry, but like the purpose was never to pass the test. The purpose was to internalize the thing that you are learning. So, what is obviously everybody knows the answer, nobody does it, is that you're actually supposed to study throughout the year, little by little by little, consistently. But that's so boring. Nobody does that, right? And so it's like, I'm not gonna do that. Screw that.
Were you that student?
Huh? No.
Of course not.
Of course not.
No, I know him, bro. He was never this person.
I wasn't. I got better in university. I would definitely start earlier than my friends. My roommate was exactly like, bro, exam in 2 nights. I'm like, you won't see me for 48 hours. Like, don't even call me. Like, literally, it's just the guy disappears. Okay, that's how it is. I start 2 months before. I used to start, and they used to be like, how will you remember what you learned 2 months ago? How will you remember that? And I'm like, I'll remember that because I read it and now I just know it. Like, how do you forget something? Like, if you've internalized it, why would you forget? Why would you assume that you forget?
True.
Right? So, again, this is consistency versus intensity.
Right.
People always go for intensity.
Right.
And culture is it always glorifies intensity more.
Yeah.
And nobody glorifies the consistency. People only see the 1 hour or 2 hour podcast, and they think that, oh, what is this? All I have to do is sit in front of mics, call a bunch of dudes, put some cameras, and just talk. Like, this is so easy. Anybody could do this. No, you didn't see the 95% of the back end, which we do consistently. Do you know how difficult that is? How much competition we have? We're trying to get attention. You're competing with Netflix. Good luck to you. Because literally you're competing with Netflix. I could watch your reel or close it and watch Netflix. Effectively, you're competing with Netflix.
True. That's so true.
There's only 24 hours in a day.
Right.
So when you're competing for time, man, you better bring something unique, because how? Like, it's just too difficult.
Absolutely.
So the consistency will get you there. Right.
Also, the second thing that I was going to talk about, the hard work. I had recently watched a podcast. Do you know Chris Williams, the podcaster? Blonde-haired guy.
No.
He's a great guy.
Okay.
So he had a guest on him. His name is Ross.
Okay.
I forget the full name. His name was Ross, and he's someone like David Goggins, right? He does all those crazy things. So he swam 317 miles nonstop around the Great Britain.
Oh my God.
317 miles with 10 feet high tides and stuff like that. So it's insane. Next level guy. And so he was interviewing, and he asked about like hard work, like how much hard work have you put into this and stuff. So he really said, it's not a lot of hard work. And you can talk about like man up and, have grit and stuff like that. Doesn't matter what, you're injured, still keep going. I don't agree with that kind of idea. I do work hard, but it's very strategic.
Right.
I only put hard work where it's necessary. If I'm injured, I'm going to take rest. I'm going to heal myself. I'm not going to broken ankle, still keep running. No, I'm not going to do that. So I think, again, to your point, like hard work versus consistency, that's really important.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a stat about LeBron James where per game, they measure your average speed, right, of you running throughout the court.
Right.
And LeBron is one of the fastest. Even today, he's one of the fastest players in the NBA, okay? But his average speed throughout the season is in the bottom 10. So you would think that, how is a guy who runs so fast, you would think that would be one of his biggest skills. Correct. Or biggest things that sets him apart. That because if I'm LeBron James and I'm like, okay, I'm one of the fastest guys in the league, I'm going to use that to my advantage every time I'm on the court. I'm going to run super fast everywhere, and they're going to have a hard time marking me, and that way I'll be able to make more points.
Right.
Score more points. And he's doing exactly the opposite. Why? Because he knows that if I maintain that intensity for longer periods of time, I will not be able to be the best for now. I don't know how this is his 20th year or 25th year in the league.
Yeah.
For 25 years, the guy's been on the top of his game. That doesn't happen because of maintaining intensity for long periods of time. You can't.
You cannot, yeah.
You will burn out. Your body will fall apart.
True.
Your body will fall apart. So imagine his understanding of what intensity I need to maintain in order to have the longest career ahead.
Right.
It's the same in business. What intensity of hard work do I need to maintain in order to have the longest surviving business? Because surviving is the biggest goal.
Absolutely.
Like if you don't survive, then that's you multiplying by zero. You're gone. Right. You can have the biggest office and the best tech and the best microphones.
Yeah.
But if you don't have sales, who the hell cares? This is multiplied by zero, right?
I'm retrospecting in my business life, and I was like, okay, I've made few mistakes. I've gone all in, spent all the cash, and I was like, next I have nothing. What am I supposed to do now?
Yeah.
So I think those have to rectify those mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we all make mistakes.
Let's go to another quote. All right. This is by David Goggins. He's like, it's so easy to be great nowadays, but most people are weak, and I thrive on other people's weaknesses.
Okay.
So I think what I can take from this is, in order to be the best or ahead of everyone, you don't have to go all in. You just have to be better than others.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So if the threshold is this, you have to be above it, right? You don't have to be here to be the greatest, is what David Goggins is saying. What do you think of it?
Yeah. I don't like necessarily, I don't think I've ever heard David Goggins speak. I've never heard him speak. Yeah. I've heard of him a lot, but I've never heard him directly. I don't know if I necessarily like that viewpoint of thinking of other people who are weak and then like overpowering them. I don't necessarily like that framing, but your point of having, in order to stand out, in order to be the best, you just have to be a little bit better than everybody else. You don't have to be a lot better. That definitionally still makes you the best.
Right.
It's like Noah Lyles, who just won the 100 meter. He won by what? 4,000th of a second.
4,000th of the...
4,000th of a second next to the Jamaican guy, right? And it's like, who cares? I came first. Like, who in the world is going to ask, oh, but he won by only 4,000th of a second. Absolutely. That guy was like almost first. No, he got a silver, right? So in a race point of view, you can see how that really, there's a very clear winner. Like this guy came first, this guy came second. Like we can measurably say, even to the 4,000th of a second, that this guy came first.
Right.
Many other domains are not like that, right? It's very blurry. It's very kind of like subjective. Like you came out on top. Like what does that mean? Like suppose I start a podcasting business and I compete against you. My views, I mean, whatever. It depends on what metric you're using to measure success is what I'm saying. Right?
Right.
So on this metric, I have 500 episodes because my metric is to get as many episodes out there. But you'll say, yeah, but I have 30, but my average views are way higher than yours. I'm going for views. So who came first? Who won? I don't know.
Right.
Right.
That's so important.
Yeah. So it really depends on what are you trying to measure. And in that, it's, I don't know. It's really subjective.
Yeah, I think it's just a game of perspectives. We were speaking about this the other day as well. Like, what is success to you may not be the same for me. Like, I can look at you and I can say, okay, you are successful, but that's my perspective of what's successful.
Yeah, we're talking about what is your rich life.
What is your rich life?
Yes. Exactly.
So, like you said, for you, it's the spiritual travel once a year, and you're like, okay, I'm successful in this year.
Yeah,
I'm done.
I'm sitting in Ashara, and I'm saying I feel rich in that moment. I feel rich because a year's worth of budgeting paid off and I'm sitting here.
Yeah.
I don't feel rich if I would know I'm rich if I'm driving a BMW. But that's not part of my rich life. Like that's not how I want to feel rich.
Right.
If I have the car, I know I will be rich, but that's not how I want to feel rich. I want to feel rich because I'll be sitting in Ashara, and for all of those people who have more money than me, but didn't come to Ashara, I will feel richer than them.
Right.
That's the point.
Right. That's the flex.
Yeah, that's the point. That you are richer than me in that you have more money in your bank account. but I did this thing that is so important to me. Now, of course, you flip it and he'll be like, okay, good for you. I still feel, for me, rich life is driving a BMW.
Absolutely.
And you drive a Toyota, so I feel richer than you. It really depends on what your rich life is.
Correct.
So it's very subjective in that sense.
Absolutely. Do you think judging someone like that is wrong?
You mean in terms of like judging people's rich lives and their money decisions?
Yeah.
I was hoping I would not mention Morgan Housel again, but here he comes. He says that money decisions are. I think I told you this, a few days ago that nobody's ever right and everybody's always wrong. What does that mean? What does that mean? It means that it is so subjective. Money decisions are so subjective. From where I sit, all of you make the stupidest money decision. And from where you sit, you think I'm stupid. Because that's how subjective is. It depends on what you want to do with your money.
Right.
So the answer to your question is, yes, it is wrong. Like, to judge, it's not just wrong, it's a complete waste of time. Because you are saying that this guy should have all the life experiences that I have, should have all the values that I have, and should live his life exactly the way that I should. Like, what are you saying? Why? Why should he do that?
No.
Why should he do that?
True. That's
right?
true.
So,
for example, like Mukesh Ambani, he wears just a blue shirt. And he's the richest man in India, probably like second richest in Asia.
yes.
And everybody's making fun of him. Like, why are you wearing a plain blue shirt?
And this entire wedding decision.
Oh my God.
Right? The entire world is like, what a waste of money.
Yeah. That's
What a
true.
waste of money.
That's true.
You could have done how many charitable things with this and blah, blah. And you know what? All of them are probably right. That is an absurd amount of money, and nobody should ever need that extravagant a wedding. But he would be sitting there going, I didn't ask you. I never asked for your opinion. All I know is that I have this money and I'm spending it. And you are entitled to feel whatever the hell you want to feel about it. Who cares?
True.
I don't care.
True.
You guys can go break your heads. Like, I don't care.
Right.
So, of course, you can say that, dude, morally, like, you could have given that, and that would have led you to feel better spiritually and more kind of like, it would have added so much value to the world, and all of that is true. But he can be sitting there saying, that's not my rich life. My rich life is...
But I think he did that as well, along with that.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
That's another argument. He could be like, I am doing that.
Yeah.
I am doing that. Now I want to also do this. It's not mutually exclusive for me. That's how much money I have.
Right.
I can do both things.
True.
Yeah, that's how much money I have.
Yeah.
Right? Now, is it fair for you to say that, no, you should give more money to charity? It's like, just because you cannot have this wedding, you think I should also not have this wedding? Why?
Garib.
Like, it's kind of silly.
true,
Like,
yeah,
what I'm trying to say is, it's such a waste of time. How much airtime did that wedding get? Like, oh my God. I was more annoyed of, why do people care about this? Not about, why is this guy doing this? Bro, my time is just... I'm too busy. I'm too busy. And it was happening during Ashara.
Yeah.
I think exactly.
Yeah.
And people were talking about it in Thal, and I was like, what are you guys doing? Why are we talking about this? Like, why aren't your social medias closed? I don't understand. Like,
Absolutely.
those things. So
Also, like, I had an argument with my niece regarding the same thing, and she was like anti-wedding. And I was like, anti this mega wedding. And I was like, okay, it's his wish, it's his money, he can do whatever he wants. But measurably, we had a discussion. It was like, there was a statistics, like, this is just 0.5% of his total net worth. So he spent only 0.5% of his total net worth. And I argued with my niece, saying that we probably spend 20% of our net worth on weddings. If I'm worth 1 crore, and I spent 20 lakhs on my wedding, which is an average price, I spent 20% of my net worth. He spent 0.5%. So he's done better than you did. So she had nothing to say after that.
that's a really good point. Because why is that a good point? Because now you're comparing apples to apples.
Exactly.
By comparing percentages. Because now it's a fraction.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just, I spend this much money and you spend this much money. Obviously, I spend, however, I don't know how much he spent, say $100 million or something like that. Anybody would be like, oh my God, this guy's crazy. This guy has no value for money. He's just throwing money, $100 million wedding. That's such a stupid decision, right? Yeah, but then you give context. But that's 0.5% of my net worth. So I'll be fine. Like, I'm so good, dude. I have no problem sleeping at night. But you spent 20% of your net worth. That's just gone, right?
Yeah.
And the same things are true. It was one day.
Yeah.
Or chalo, 3 events. It was 3 events. We both did 3 events.
Yeah.
And we both made clothes that we will only ever wear once.
True.
So what are we talking about? It was 0.5, it's 20. Who made the worst financial decision? It's so subjective.
And he probably made more money with the PR of the wedding. He got contracts and projects and
So
stuff like
fine,
that.
that.
We probably lost all that money. We're next day, we're like, I have to work
But
now.
again, I can still argue that.
Okay.
Because you can say, yeah, I spent 20% of my net worth, but then what is the value that I got? Because this is the thing. Price should never be judged in the absence of value, right? Which means that we have an iPhone. It's 250 KD. What is it, 300 KD, right? Say 300 KD. Now, I think we've spoken about this before as well, but I use my iPhone for work, for productivity, for my calendar, for my photographs, for my social media, for booking flights, booking any travel related thing, accommodation, whatever, for my business, for so many applications for my phone, for directions, for listening to podcasts or whatever, so many different applications. That's the amount of value that I extract from that phone. And the price is 300 KD. Now, I can say that I extract 500 KD's worth in its life that I will use this phone. I extract 500 KD's worth of money from it.
Okay.
Is this a good buy? Can I say that an iPhone is, man, it's a really expensive phone. Every year, Apple keeps upping the price. Like, it's so expensive. It's so expensive for you. Why? It's not just an expensive phone. Like, that's just not, that's not a fact. It's again so subjective. It's subjective not on your income. That is one thing. But it's subjective. It's actually not subjective on your income at all. Why? Because you compare, say, my mom. My mom uses it for calls, for some social media, for some photographs. That's it.
Right.
So, but it also costs 300 KD. But she extracts maybe 200 KD's worth of value.
Right.
For her, it is expensive. For me, it is not. They both cost 300 KD.
Correct.
It has nothing to do with my income level. My mom has a higher income level than I do. But for me, it is a good investment, if you want to call it that. It's a good investment. And for her, it is not a good investment because she has overpaid from what the value that she is deriving from that.
Right.
Right? So price should never be, it's a completely incomplete statement that this thing is expensive. For whom?
Yeah.
For whom is it expensive? And that's not to do with net worth and how much you can afford. It's to do with how much value will you extract out of it. How much value will you extract out of it? A guy could be 10 times richer, but if he doesn't use his iPhone in not nearly the ways that I do, it's still a good investment for me and it's still an expensive phone for him.
That is the reason in many a times I interchange these words between expensive and unaffordable. So what I mean is, like, when I say unaffordable, I am not able to buy that product. And expensive is like, even if I'm able to buy the product, it's not worth for me.
Right.
So and that's a distinction I always make between
I love
products.
that. I love that. That's a good way to see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. The other thing is you should never judge outcome in the absence of process.
Okay, what do you mean?
So a student got an A in his exam, you will judge him, oh, this guy's really smart. But nobody ever asks, how did you study for this exam? And if they said, oh, I just pulled an all-nighter. No, he's not a smart guy. He could have gotten lucky.
True.
How can I know that luck was not part of this factor?
Yeah, or he cheated.
Yeah. Exactly. But if he said, no, I pretty much studied in bits throughout, and I studied and I used all kinds of study techniques in order to really become a straight A student. And here are my grades to prove that. Nice. I'm not judging the result. I'm judging you by your process. What was the discipline? What was the consistency? What level of intensity were you able to maintain for long periods of time? All of those things. True. So never judge price in the absence of value, and never judge outcome in the absence of process.
Very interesting 2 lines.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a third one as well, but I can't remember right now. It's the same thing. Never judge this in the absence of, I can't remember.
When you remember it, you send it to me and I will post it as a story.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's move on. So I have this book called
Should we time? How are we good with? How are we with time? It's fine.
2-3 more hours.
Okay.
2-3 more hours.
2-3 more hours. Okay.
Yeah. We'll upload this on Acquired podcast.
Yeah. Shout out to Acquire.
All right. So Atomic Habits, the book by James Clear.
Right.
James Clear.
Yeah.
All right. This was again spoken in the Chris Wills podcast. And so James Clear in this book says, you do not rise to the level of your goals, but fall to the level of your systems. Oh my, even right now I have goosebumps when I say it. This is like my reality check. I've always compared myself with the goals that I have. And when I don't reach them, I blame the goals. I never blame the systems I put in place to reach the goals. What do you think of it?
Definitely true. Definitely. I was listening to Ali Abdal recently. He has a video. It's called "My Honest Advice for Anybody Who Wants Financial Freedom."
Okay.
It's a great video. It's 43 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, but it's amazing. And in that video, he's talking about something called what he calls the GPS system. So that's goals, plan, and system. So he's saying, what is your goal? So say in the context of the video, he's saying, suppose your goal is that you want financial freedom. Okay? So, okay, what is the number that would make you feel that I have achieved financial freedom? What is the exact number that you were looking for? So say it's like he's a British guy, so he's talking about like 1 million pounds. And so say 1 million pounds, okay? Or 1 million KD, right? Okay, if I have 1 million KD, I will feel that I'm financially free. Okay, that's your goal. Now, what is the plan?
Right.
GPS, so P, what is the plan to get to that goal? What do you do currently? How much do you make? Right? So he's like, okay, 1 million KD, when would you like that? So it's like, okay, maybe when I'm 40 years old or I'm 50 years old, I would like to have 1 million KD in savings. And then I will be financially free. Okay, 1 million KD. Suppose you are 30 years old today. So you have 20 years to make 1 million KD.
Right.
What's the plan? Whatever job you have today, if that continues for 20 years, you will have made an X amount. It will not make you reach 1 million KD. True. Whatever that difference is the additional income you need to earn over 20 years.
Correct.
What is the plan that's going to get you there? Okay? And then what is the system that's going to make you stick to the plan that's going to get you to the goal?
Right.
So you're aiming for the goal, but you're going to fall as low as how good your system is.
Absolutely.
So it's completely true that people don't rise to their goals, they fall to their systems. Completely true. Because that is the crux of everything that's going to flow to that's going to drive your plan, which is going to make you reach your goal.
Yeah. He says like everybody at the starting line of a 100-meter race has the same goal. It's to win, but the separation is in the systems in preparation. Absolutely. Like Usain Bolt prepares in a different way than the rest of them. So that's how he's winning. But the goal is the same. It's to win. And Atomic Habits is a great book. I've read like quarter of it, but it's an amazing book.
It's a powerful book, and this is a very powerful idea. It immediately tells you that the importance is how great my system is.
Yes.
My goal can be whatever. That's very subjective.
True.
I can't come and tell you that, man, dude, this goal sucks. That's so subjective.
Yeah.
But I can judge you on what's your system.
Exactly.
Right? And there's so much more to learn from this is a system. It's what our previous episode was. What is a system that's going to make you siphon money in these accounts and make you feel not lost?
Correct.
And where the hell is my money going?
Correct.
Right? So, and if your goal is a vacation in 1 year, what is the system that's going to get you there?
True.
So it's all about systems. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if you were a computer engineer, they train you to think in systems. There's something called systems engineers. There's an actual degree, systems engineering.
Right.
How to create, how to literally craft and design systems for engineering purposes. But you can take those lessons and use it to create systems for all kinds of other things.
Right. Like even in our team, like in the beginning, we didn't have a system in place for contacting the guests. I mean, searching for guests, researching for guests, contacting them, booking the dates, then coming up with the content for the podcast, and then setting up the whole place, and then editing, publishing. We didn't have the system in place. Now there's an app called Notion.
Yes.
Oh, it's an amazing app.
Huge,
it's a lifesaver. So all of us, we're like collaboratively, we use the app and we put everything that we have there, and everybody manages a separate department, and then we're doing our work. And so it's very easy to know who's where. And we can, cross-question them. What happened about this? What happened about this? Instead of just like vaguely, I remember this one. Now I will ask him. So that the system really helps a lot.
Amazing. It's Notion. So many big podcasters I know, they all use Notion.
Yes.
They all use Notion. It's like one of the best productivity team management apps. What do you think of the idea of like when you're trying to create systems for, suppose your team, your business, it invites complexity, right? Because now you have an app, and then people will need to, everybody will have the responsibility to maintain this app and put all of the tasks, and then, it requires, naturally it will invite complexity.
True.
In your system.
True.
And there is this idea that the world moves more and more towards complexity. But wisdom is in simplicity. So like, actually, there is a threshold of you making your team's productivity system so complex that it just becomes way too difficult to manage.
True.
And it's like, this was not required. We didn't need another app just to get in touch with the next guest.
Absolutely.
Like, all emails were working fine. It's the simplest thing to use, email. You don't need to like go and, I don't know, create some elaborate way of some CRM, customer relation management software that I'm gonna take, and it's like, bro, just email the guy. It's fine, right? So there is some wisdom in that. While you should make a good system, it will invite complexity, and where the judgment of, wait a minute, let's not invite complexity here, right? Let's actually actively keep it simple, and that will be the most efficient thing to do. It's very counterintuitive, because you might feel like, oh, the more complex it is, the better we're getting, we're growing. See how we have a system of like, this is how many paid vacations employees will get every year. We've put it in this application, and then you go to this app, and then you apply for your paid work days off, and then I will approve it, and then it will go through the HR committee, and then they will say, oh, okay, but now if you've overgone, that has to be calculated with unpaid leave, or can you make it up working weekends? It's like, dude, this got so complicated about two guys taking days off. Like, just have one phone call, and it's like, it's fine, it will work.
That's true.
And put it in an email so it's official, right? Hey, I'm asking for these days off from this date to this date. Please approve. Approved. That one email was enough. You didn't need to go make an entire software and like implement the whole. This is what I mean.
Yeah.
Right.
I've faced this firsthand in my HVAC business. So what I have this habit in HVAC business that I try to custom create softwares for everything. This is my problem. I love complexity, but of course I have to understand that my team will not, and my team might not be even equipped mentally, physically to handle all these things, because I'm not the one who's going to actively daily use the software.
Exactly.
So I have to understand their point of view as well. So then I started custom creating apps for like managing quotations. If it's approved or not, when did I send it? How long did the customer take to approve it? When is the payment going to come? And then I was like, initially, okay, this is the idea. Okay, simple enough. But then what about invoices? Quotation is approved. Now you need invoices. Then when was the invoice sent? When was the invoice approved? When was the invoice paid? Okay, payment done. How are you going to use the money then?
Right.
So then you
one
go into
thing
this
after the
loophole.
other. Exactly.
It's like never-ending thing. I had this first-hand experience like, bro, stop this. I'm going to keep it manually.
Yes.
And halfway through this creation of the software, I stopped it.
Yeah.
So I don't want to keep it any more complex.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard. It's from as the manager to draw those lines. If you have like a team of 100 people, and if everybody's emailing you about vacation days, that's a bad system. You know that I can't manage 100 people over emails.
True.
I will need to get an application, a software that will streamline all of this. That will remove all of this inefficiency. I know it will invite complexity, but it will be enough.
Right.
It will be enough. But with a 3-person team to do that, I mean, you can do it, but do you need to do that? And
that's true.
It might actually make it more inefficient.
Absolutely.
Right? It's really hard to see that. It takes trial and error, like you did. Like you actually tried, and as you were doing it, you thought, this is getting out of hand.
Oh my God.
So yeah.
All right, let me go to the next quote. This one's by Patrick Bet-David.
Okay.
He says, when you're winning, you're not as amazing as you think you are. And when you're losing, you're not as terrible as you think you are. And then he goes like, when you're winning, the whole world tells you, hey, you're amazing. You're better than this guy. You're better than that guy. So it like creates ego in you. It creates that, it boasts your confidence. Sometimes it inflates more than it's necessary, right? And then he goes like, there's a quote by Marcus Aurelius. I think he's a philosopher.
Yeah.
Right. He had a slave who used to always sit behind him and whisper in his ears, you're just a man. You're just a man. So that really pricked me in different ways. Like sometimes we inflate and we deflate as well. But in terms of inflation of our own confidence, of our own ego, we think like sometimes we think we're gods or something like that. And then you're just a man. Oh my God, that really humbles you.
Yeah, it does.
What do you think of it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Marcus is like a personal favorite of mine. Like
Really?
I've read so much of Marcus Aurelius. He's a Stoic philosopher.
Yes.
And Stoicism is an entire body of philosophy.
I think he founded Stoicism.
No, he did not. There's another guy, I forget his name, but there are a bunch, but he's one of the biggest names in Stoic philosophy. Biggest names. Seneca is another. But yeah, I mean, having a guy behind you constantly whispering, you're just a man. I guess we all need that if Marcus did it. What do you think that means? Like, I guess so the context of Marcus is that he was the king. So he's in a position where his ego can be inflated. His ego is inflated probably all the time.
True.
You're a king.
True.
Right? And maybe that's why he's like, I need that. I mean, I need a consistent reminder of my mortality. And that I'm just a man.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, it's certainly powerful.
Just think about like Sachin Tendulkar.
Right.
He broke all the records there was, and he created records that were not breakable in his era. And people thought that these are not breakable records. If he had the kind of inflation that other people would have had, he would think of himself way higher. But he's a really humble guy. And then comes Virat Kohli, and then he breaks almost all of his records. And that tells you that unbreakable records are being broken by people left and right.
Yes.
And there will be time maybe someone else comes and breaks Virat Kohli's records.
There will be. There most definitely.
Most definitely, yes.
Will be.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's about if Virat is a really ego-inflated guy at that point, he will be very, very disappointed.
True.
Man, I thought nobody would ever break my. Or he could say, respect.
Respect, true.
And most likely he will say respect because he's an amazing sportsman.
Amazing, yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to fully remember the quote. It was a long quote, but what was it again?
When you're amazing, when you're winning, you're not as amazing as you think you are.
Right.
When you're losing, you're not as terrible as you think you are.
Oh, okay. Yes, and I now understand why he's quoting Marcus Aurelius, because this is a very powerful Stoic idea where I think it's Seneca who said that there is no need to celebrate too hard in times of euphoria. When everything is going your way, no need to celebrate too hard. And when everything is going against you, there's no need to get depressed.
Right.
Which means that at all times, maintain a level head.
Right.
Maintain a level head. Why? Because know that everything is cyclical.
True.
Everything is cyclical. Today times are with you, tomorrow they will not be with you.
Correct.
Just guaranteed. If there's one guarantee, things will be going against you.
Inna ma'al usri yusra.
Exactly. It just will. It's like that's just how the world is designed. Cyclicality everywhere. Businesses go through that, people go through that, economies go through that, industries go through that, technology goes through, just everything. Everything is cycles.
True.
Right? So if in both sides, not only is it unwise for you to celebrate very hard when things are going for you, it is equally wrong to sit and be very deflated, depressed guy if things are going against you. There's no need to do that. Just keep a level head. Just put your head down, solve the next problem in front of you, and get to work.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a very hard thing to say. Very hard thing to say.
Yeah.
But the idea still stands. It's still true. That is the most optimum way to live your life. So I think that's what he means, that when you're winning and when you're losing, And the same idea.
I think when you're winning, the solution is to be humble yourself, that maybe give the credit to your results, your success, to something higher than you. And that is a way to lower your boost,
Yes.
your confidence and ego. And when you're losing and you're thinking you're very terrible, start with small actions. Like I remember there was a Navy captain. He had a speech and he was like, start by making your bedroom.
Yeah.
Start your day by making a bedroom, because that will give you a small sense of success. I did something today. Then move your way up. So I think that's really important.
Do you do that?
Yes.
I do.
Not daily. There was a time I did do daily without fail. But now it's like I try to make it a point that I do it. But sometimes, like when I'm very late, I'm running short of time, I don't do it.
Yeah.
But it really helps. I first-hand experience, physically, it really helps. Like when I'm sitting in my car, I'm like, I achieved something. I made my bed and I came down. That's a good feeling, man.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing how that is. I have been doing it for years. I don't feel that, I feel like if it is affecting me, it's subconscious. I never consciously feel like, yay, I made my bed. Like I never ever said that. I never ever said that. I'm not making fun of you, because it's such a powerful idea. I've heard it so many times. And every time I listen to it, I'm like, I do this. And I've been doing it for years, not because I heard it. I don't know why this habit, I guess my mom, I don't know who instilled this habit in me. I've never felt anything about it. I just do it and then I just leave.
Right.
I know one thing. I have to do it. I can't not do it.
Why?
Because it's almost like a daily routine.
Right.
In my head. I have to start my day.
Has there been a day when you've not done it?
Honestly, if there has, I don't remember it. That's how often I do it.
Okay. Because I wanted to reverse psychology it.
Yes, I know.
When you don't do it, what do you feel?
Exactly, you're right. And I genuinely don't remember a time. I do it not when after I've brushed my teeth and I come back into the room and then I do it. I get up and I do my bed. Okay. Then I go. So it's like, it's literally the first thing I do.
You now.
It's just, I can't, So, but I've never felt any kind of achievement with it or something.
Book, Make Your Bed.
Yes, there is a book, Make Your Bed. And I've not read it, but I wonder what he's saying in that. And it is so possible that people who understand this really deeply, they would tell me, you have no idea how it affects you. You know what? I think I should experiment on myself. For a month, I should just stop doing it.
Yes.
And see how I feel.
It's the first rule of life in Jordan Peterson's book, Make Your Bed.
Make your bed.
First rule.
I mean, he wouldn't say that for nothing.
For nothing.
I mean, he could have chosen how many things in the world, but he chose make your bed. Like, that's the first rule. Why?
Rule.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So.
Well, brother, I had a lot of fun talking to you.
This was so unstructured. I have no expectations. I don't know what to expect. Oh, so you mentioned that, you have to break your own record.
Yes.
Right? Oh, because this is the most viewed. So here's last parting idea. That in your life, most things will be, how do I say this? It's a tricky thing. So there is a power law in life, which means that, so I think I mentioned this last time where Morgan Housel, he's talking about how he wrote Psychology of Money, and it's now become one of the most popular books he's ever, it is one of the most popular books in the finance category, right? Yes. Now he wrote his second book, which came out recently. And his publisher said that, wow, Morgan, you have a bar to meet, one of the most popular writers ever in the recent history. Like, wow, good luck. So much pressure. So he went on a lot of podcasts about his new book. And they always asked him, did you feel pressure? The first time you wrote it, you were a first-time writer.
Right.
Now this is your second book. So what's the pressure like? Same thing. This is my second interview. What's the pressure like? Views, this, that, blah. And he said that the truth is about life that you will do a few things that will be so successful that nothing you do after that will ever match up to that. That's just life.
Absolutely.
That's just life. In a way, it's kind of sad what he's saying, but he's like, I don't mean it in a sad way and like, you should be discouraged that once I've written a book that's 3 million copies sold, khalas, I should not write any other book. Or once, I've been, Tayyab, I don't want to do another episode because like I did my first one and we got lucky and now we're the most viewed and now I don't want to do a second because what if it flops and how will I feel if this video just did like 600 views? I don't want to do that.
Right.
Right? I want to be the guy who said, no, I'm still the number one guy on Tayyip's channel. Like, I couldn't care less. Okay, it's not my metric, it's your guys's. Okay, but I appreciate it. Of course, it's a very important metric. But what I'm trying to say is, I'm setting expectation that it happened once, and the likely scenario is that it will not happen again.
True.
If it does, then we have something very special going on.
Basically telling us reality minus expectations.
Yes.
In a sense, it's Morgan Housel, so of course I'm telling you that. But in a different kind of spin, it's like, what he's saying is the reason why it's a power law is because few successes drive, or few things you do drive most of your success.
Right.
It drives most of your success. That is very, very true in so many domains in life.
Give example.
Writing a book, starting a business, right? I started a business. 10 years later, I sold it for $100 million. Okay, I'm going to start another business. The likelihood of you selling that again for 100, very, very low.
Right.
Just because you did it once, it's not going to happen again. The mathematics are not with you. The mathematics are against you.
Right.
If you can do it again, then you know that, okay, you have something special and you're doing it, right? And even if this goes to a lot of views, it will just be the second episode. The sample size is too small.
Yeah.
We'd have to do it 10 times. And each of them, if they did really well, you'd be like, okay, whoa, this guy, something special is happening.
True.
Why did the first podcast do so well? Do you have any view on that?
We have reviews. Like, I think that it was just what we touched upon was very generic and very important to, I think, most of the people. Personal finance, like everybody is not able to solve it. Like no matter how rich you are, you still have a problem of managing finance, because then you have the fear of losing all your money, spending all your money, right? A poor person has the fear of how do I manage this money and make the most out of whatever I have. So I think it resonated with all levels of income classes.
We have legit reviews that people are taking notes out of that podcast.
Yeah, that's true. And it's certainly, do you think it's more about what was spoken about, or that it's two friends talking just naturally?
I think it's the best of both.
I think so too. Because it's not just the views, it's the views retention. So there's the duration, average
Right.
duration. Even that's high, which is not in all of our podcasts.
Right.
But
So-
two friends speaking about this makes a lot of difference, because if the same thing my father tells me, I will not listen to that. But on the contrary, if I listen to a podcast where this conversation is going on between two friends, that will make a better impact.
Right.
And just
Right.
so you know, the average video duration for 25,000 views is 12 to 11 minutes.
Yes.
Which is like amazing.
It's amazing.
Okay. I had no idea what to make of that. That's
40
really good.
45 out of 45 minutes, average view is 12 minutes.
That's high.
That's incredible.
Because 25,000 people, like none of them have watched below 12 minutes. Like
Yeah,
the
you're right.
average.
You're right. Mathematically, that's what it means.
yeah.
Because if you're not interested, you would cut the video in the first minute.
Correct.
What are these guys talking about? I don't care. Cut it.
Right.
But the average is 12 minutes. So they went on ahead. They were interested in what we were talking about. So
That's
that was really.
It was about the content, because the video quality at that time, because we
Definitely. I actually recently rewatched that because I wanted to revise what I had said. There were certain aspects I had forgotten, because you don't apply everything on the daily.
True.
And so I was like, I know I said this, and what was the point? So I actually, and I saw it, and I was like, bro, Tayyip has come so far. Oh my God, your video quality, like, it's insane. And I was like, this is kind of like so boring, like, I mean, like, of course it was the best you guys were doing at the time, and obviously fine.
Yeah.
But to your point, it's the actual what is being spoken about,
Yes.
not how it is being presented.
Yes.
That's keeping the engagement, right?
Exactly.
I guess we'll know the answer to my question if it was actually two friends talking, because this was about nothing. And if people still come to listen to two friends talk, we will know that, okay, this thing worked.
But I think we also are touching on a very critical topic, which is education, because a lot of, like you said, a lot of people are confused. Do we go with the education route? Do we not go? Because there's so much stuff available online. Do we take the university route? Do we spend thousands of dollars or not? So I think
Education is a very general topic.
Yeah.
So many people being affected by it.
Yes, and our demographic has more youth.
Right.
So I think this would pick on with them.
Yeah. Although I don't know, I mean, I guess we did speak about education to some degree, but then obviously conversation went to a whole bunch of places. But hey, man, I know you wanted to try this.
Yes.
Completely unstructured, and yeah, like I said, what do we have to lose? Like a bunch of hours? Like it's fine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, the unstructured idea I could not have gone with other guests.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like,
Which
because-
I understand.
Yeah, because we're friends. We have the vibe. We have the tonality. You know what I like to talk about. So you can think about topics that would interest me. I could think about the same thing for you. So I think it was a really good experiment. And as far as I look back in the past 1.5 hours, I'm really happy with the content.
Yeah.
Literally 1 hour 45 minutes, and this battery is already dead. Yeah, like I'm waiting for the camera to shut. Release the battery.
Oh my God! Please keep this full podcast. I'm loving it. All right, man.
All right, bro.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
brother.
so much.
Thank you
This
once
was
again.
amazing.
And inshallah, we do the 3rd episode, and we're still growing, and we're making better episodes. And let's do it soon again.
Inshallah, definitely. I love this. Amazing.
Thank you, brother. By the way, new mics. We leveled up. This is the first podcast we're using these new mics.
Yeah. I was perfectly happy with your sound quality in the previous episodes. I don't know what difference this will make, but I'm curious to listen to it. And if I do hear something, I'm like, then you know that even a non-technical guy can listen to this and go like, this is substantially different.
Yes.
Or noticeably different.
Noticeably, yes.
Noticeably different. Because you guys might know it as experts.
True,
But it's
true.
really, like, for me, like,
True.
But yeah.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. And I wanted to thank the studio space, Image East Studio, for sponsoring this podcast and the previous one. Really, thank you so much for giving us the space to host our podcast, and we look forward to working with you once again in the future. And cut!